What's going on, everybody out in YouTube land, and welcome back to another episode of GBA. In this episode, I want to continue my series where I show you some of my game collections. Today we're going to go over one of my smaller collections, just like I did with the Sega Master System. Today I actually want to show you my Sega CD games. Just a little bit of backstory. I've had my Sega CD for a couple years, but I honestly didn't have any games for it. Recently, I got my first Sega CD game from Retro Game Treasure, and it kind of lit a fire underneath me because I hooked up my Sega CD and I was actually having a lot of fun with it. So over the last 2 months or so, I have accumulated 28 games, and I'm going to show you those today. Now, although this is one of my smaller collections, this is also something I'm very proud of so far because I picked up a lot of games that I was out to get already. But as you know, I'm pretty much going for as many Sega CD games as I can. I've gotten a lot of great games, but I've also gotten quite a good bit of filler. So I'm going to show you the filler titles first, and then towards the later half of the video, I'll start showing you some of the games that I've been having a ton of fun playing. And some of them might be a surprise to you. So guys, thank you for watching this episode. Without further ado, let's go ahead and start this. So like I said, I'm going to start out with some of the more filler-ish titles, stuff that I'm not really playing a whole lot, but I'm still happy to have them, of course. But so first of all, and also I think, I could be completely wrong, but I think I've currently got 28 games for the Sega CD. So that's 28 games that I've purchased in the last 2 months or so. But first off, I will show you Wheel of Fortune on the Sega CD. I mean, there's not really a whole lot you can say about Wheel of Fortune. I've got this on multiple systems across the board. I mean, it's fun, right? It's Wheel of Fortune, but I mean, it's nothing that's going to, like, rock your world or anything like that. So yeah, Wheel of Fortune. Next up, a sports game, we have Link's The Challenge of Golf. I mean, honestly, this one's not that bad. I actually put it in, and you could definitely do a lot worse with a golf game. But once again, probably not something I'm going to put in a whole lot to play. But still happy to have Link's The Challenge of Golf. Next up, not a very fun game. We have ESPN Sunday Night NFL. I put this in to see if it would work, but I literally didn't even finish a whole preseason game on it. But yeah, so still happy to have ESPN Sunday Night NFL. An even worse football game. We have Joe Montana's NFL Football by Sega. Which this one was kind of disappointing because on the Genesis I used to love the Joe Montana Sports Talk football games. But yeah, so, and this is also one of the cheapest Sega CD games that you can get complete in box. So definitely be out on a look for this if you're trying to boost up your collection. Next up in the ESPN series, we have ESPN's National Hockey Night. This one wasn't too bad when I put it in. It's a pretty typical hockey game from that era, which a lot of those I really like, especially what is it? NHL 94 on the Genesis is a fantastic game. Alright, next up, I still need to take the sticker off the front of this game. I just haven't yet. I didn't like this game when I was playing it. But we have Microcosm. This one wasn't very good. Next up, we have Bram Stoker's Dracula. I didn't like this one either. The controls are really clunky, and the player's movement is really clunky. It's a very slow-paced game. I really didn't enjoy this a whole lot at all. Next up, this one isn't too bad, but still not something I'm going to play a whole lot. We have Surgical Strike. Some of the best things about these games is actually the cutscenes and the acting in them. It's one of those, it's so bad it's good. But yeah, so definitely happy to have Surgical Strike in the collection. Moving right along, we have Racing Aces. Not a very memorable game, but you know, it's cheap and easy to add to the collection. Next up, we have Iron Helix. I just got this one recently. I haven't even really had a chance to put this in and try it, so I can't really comment too much on this game. But judging by the screenshots and stuff, it doesn't look like something I'm going to like a whole lot. Alright, Mansion of the Hidden Souls. This is another one I can't really get into very much. It kind of reminds me of one of those older point-and-click games or whatnot. Not something I'm really interested in playing. But this one is a little bit more sought after. And I got this for a good deal, so I decided to pick it up. We've got a couple loose disc games that I printed out artwork for and put them in DVD cases. We've got Tomcat Alley. This is another super cheap game that you can pick up for your collection, but this one's not very good either. This is the one Sega CD game that I got from Retro Game Treasure that kind of started this collection. We have Jaguar XJ220. This is actually pretty fun. I mean, it's a typical racing game from that age, but the music quality is really good and it's got a lot of variety. It's not a terrible game. And it's one I don't see very often, so definitely happy to have it, even though it's just disc only. Next up is a game that a lot of people like, but I've never really been able to get into them. It's Echo, the Tides of Time. As I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to know, some of these cases are cracked and some of the hinges are broke. That's pretty typical with these Sega CD games. I've been debating on whether or not to get some of the replacement cases that people have out. You know, I'm like iffy on that because I want to keep the games all original. So changing out the cases obviously will affect that. But it would look a whole lot better. I guess that's the positive part of it. So, Echo, the Tides of Time. Once again, not a series I've really ever been able to get into. Next up is another game that I got very recently. I don't think I'll like this one very much because it's like a real-time strategy game, and I'm not the biggest fan of those kind of games. But we have Powermonger. Like I said, I'm just not a huge fan of real-time strategy games, but I tell you one game that I've been playing a lot that I actually like quite a bit. It's a little bit off topic because it's an NES game, but it's similar to a real-time strategy game, is North and South. If you guys have a chance to play that game, you definitely should. It's very fun, and they do a little bit different stuff in it. So, and I mean, I feel like the gameplay is worth the time you put into it. But moving right along with Sega CD games, we have Cliffhanger. This game's not very good. This game's not very good on any platform, really. I have this on Super Nintendo. I still need to pick this up for the NES, but this game goes for a decent amount of money on the NES, so I'm going to keep my eye out for a deal, because I definitely don't want to spend too much money on this game. Alright, so now we're going to get into some of the games in my collection that I actually have been enjoying playing. Some of these more than others. I'll try to move along these pretty quick, but I do want to point out some of the ones that I actually like a whole lot, especially ones that you might not know about too much. But the first one is Brutal Paws of Fury. Now this is on a lot of the 16-bit systems, and it's not the greatest fighting game, but this one actually has some pretty cool cutscenes and stuff in it, and I've been having a little bit of fun playing this. It's the only fighting game I currently have on the Sega CD, so that's probably why. But yeah, Brutal Paws of Fury. Next up is a classic arcade game that I have been playing ever since I was a child, and I'll probably keep on playing it for as long as I'm alive. And this is a very good version of the game. We have NBA Jam on the Sega CD. This game is very close to the arcade. The sound quality is great, the sound effects, the music, and the gameplay is really good. So yeah, definitely pick this one up, and this one can be had for, around 15, 16 bucks, so it's not that high priced of a game. So yeah, definitely fun. And this is a very good port of the game. Alright, next up is a game that goes for a decent amount of money. I really love action platformer games and platformer games in general, so this one definitely stood out to me. It's fun, but it's also kind of weird and it gets a little bit confusing. I find myself getting stuck in this game quite a lot, but we have Wild Woody for the Sega CD. This is definitely a game that you should pick up if you can find it, especially for a decent deal. But like I said, be prepared because this game is a little bit strange. And I think they were going after that attitude that a lot of the mascots had in the mid-90s, because this pencil definitely has some attitude. But yeah, so Wild Woody for the Sega CD. It was a game that I was looking to pick up, so I went ahead and pulled the trigger when I found a decent deal. Next up is a couple disc-only games, unfortunately, but like I said, I printed out the artwork and put them in DVD cases. We have Hook. This is a really fun game, but I like this game on the Super Nintendo a whole lot too. So definitely, give this one a shot if you can. The disc-only version of this is not very expensive. I don't really know what it goes for complete in box, but I've been really enjoying this one. So yeah, definitely pick this up if you see it out there in the wild. Next up is another fun platformer game. I'm a sucker for these Sega CD games that are actual games, because I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware that this system is chock full of full motion video games, because that was the craze when this came out. So I really like these platforming games and other like real games that were released for the system. But we've got Wonder Dog. Now, a lot of these games aren't games that are going to be at the top of your list of favorite games that you want to play, but they're good games for the Sega CD, and I mean, they're decent. It's definitely worth spending some time playing these. So we got Wonder Dog for the Sega CD. Next up is a very fun game, and one that I actually like quite a lot on the system. And it's one of the more popular games on the system. We have The Amazing Spider-Man versus the Kingpin. Yeah, like I said, this is one of the more popular games on the system, and I can see why. This one's pretty darn fun. Alright, next up we have another pretty fun platformer. I think this came out on the Sega Genesis, and it might be on some other systems, which it's a lot cheaper to play on those systems. But the Sega CD version has some cool cutscenes and, it has better audio. Basically, what the Sega CD is known for. But we have Pugsy for the Sega CD. It's just a fun little platformer. I mean, it's not great, but it's definitely not bad. Another game that I found that I would rather play on the Sega CD than one of the other 16-bit systems, we have Pitfall: The Mayan Adventures. This is not a bad game at all on the system. It's fun to play. I've been having a good time with it. And you can also actually play the original version of Pitfall on this game, which is also really neat, because I have a lot of nostalgia for playing the original Pitfall back in the day on Atari. But yeah, Pitfall: The Mayan Adventures on Sega CD. Alright, next up we have a sports game that really surprised me a whole lot. I didn't know much about this game, but when I put it in, I was having a lot of fun with this, and I played it for a lot longer than what I should. It's just a very unique basketball game, and the mechanics are really neat. But we have bouncers for the Sega CD. You kind of play as the basketball in this game, and you basically have to use your opponent to get leverage to score the baskets. And they're trying to get leverage on you to score baskets. There's power-ups and different things like that. You've got a couple different game modes that you can play. But this is really fun. I really enjoyed playing this. And I'll definitely play it some more. The characters are pretty unique. But yeah, so Bouncers on the Sega CD. Next up is not a great game, and this is one of those full motion video games that I was talking about. But this is a franchise that I loved as a kid. And I guess that's probably why I've been having fun playing this. But you've got the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. What this seems like is it's actually just some of the some of the episodes that they put on the Sega CD with quick time events. Basically, you know, like push left right now or push A right now to kind of advance through the episode. But like I said, I really like it. The video quality is horrible and grainy, but it's just neat to see. And like I said, I grew up really liking this when I was a young kid. So yeah, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on Sega CD. So now we're down to the last two games, and probably the two games that I've been having the most fun playing here lately. First up, we have Chuck Rock 2, The Son of Chuck. So this is a really fun platformer. I like the bosses and the enemies in this game. The only thing that I really don't like about this game is how annoying Chuck Rock Jr., I guess, is when he cries. He basically cries every time he gets hit, and you get hit a lot in this game, so that noise does become quite annoying after a while. But other than that, this is a pretty darn fun platforming game, and probably my favorite one that I've gotten currently on the system. So yeah, definitely get this if you find it out in the wild for cheap. Chuck Rock 2, The Son of Chuck. So now my favorite game that I've gotten so far on the Sega CD, and this is definitely the best way to play this in my opinion. You have Final Fight Sega CD. So the reason why I like this one a whole lot is because you get all three characters in this. I'm sure as a lot of you guys know, the Final Fight game on Super Nintendo, you only get two characters to choose from. You're missing Guy. And I know on the Super Nintendo later on they released Final Fight Guy, but that game goes for a lot of money. And this one has really good sound quality. The music is great. I just really, really like this version of the game, and I feel like this is the closest thing that you're going to get to the arcade from this generation of games, obviously. But yeah, Final Fight CD. Definitely a fun game. This one's a little bit pricey, so, I mean, definitely be on the lookout for a good deal if you want to pick it up. But yeah, guys, so those are my Sega CD games that I currently have in my collection. Like I said, I think it's about 28 games if I'm correct, and I've been having a lot of fun playing this system. Like I said, I hooked up my Sega CD back when Retro Game Treasure sent me my first game, and I've been playing it almost every single night. But yeah, so thanks for watching this episode of GBA, guys. And thanks for taking a look at my Sega CD collection currently. And stay tuned for more videos like this. I'm probably going to try to go through all of my collections because I kind of like showing the games and giving my opinions on some of them. But yeah, guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. And, you know, share this video around if you know anybody who might like this kind of stuff. And guys, just stay tuned for the next one. I hope you have a good day and a good night. See you later.